Howdy, Crispy. Just wanted to say that I've been watching your D&D horror stories for a while. It's great to listen to when locking in for my campaign. After a bit, it reminded me of my first campaign, so here's some context. A friend I knew from another social media website invited me to play some Dungeons & Dragons in their campaign. I obliged because I'd never tried Dungeons & Dragons. I was excited to see what it was all about. Because it was so long ago, my memories are a bit fuzzy, but here's what I remember. There were about 4 to 5 other players. The other players I can recall were a Kenku Rogue, the problem player, a Bard, and 2 other players. I played a Fire Genasi named Vane, who basically acted as the voice of reason for the party. Nothing particularly troublesome happened during the duration of the campaign, well, until this one scene. I don't remember what led up to it, but somehow my cleric and the Kenku ended up alone together. Keep in mind, I was 13 years old at the time. Oh god, no, why is that important? No, why is that important? The Kenku Rogue asked if I wanted to do something in a private voice call to roleplay intercourse between our characters, so to speak. And I mindlessly agreed, and at the end of it he said, I used a spell to make sure you're not pregnant. The Kenku Rogue also once had me read a book to him in private voice chat to help him sleep. Sometime after that, the campaign kind of fell apart. Well, did the campaign fall apart because of something like... Oh my goodness, I am so excited for our next Dungeons & Dragons game. Hey, are you guys ready to play? Oh, don't worry, sweetheart, we'll play in a second. You'll never take me alive! She was above 16, I swear! I wonder if that has something to do with... You are such a hauntingly beautiful 13-year-old. Nah! I'm not sure, somehow, if it was because of the Kenku Rogue or something else, but it was all incredibly creepy. That memory is why I don't do anything of that sort in my current campaign. Look, as someone who is certifiably asexual and aromantic, I don't mind intimacy in D&D, but for the love of God, this is not okay. Call the FBI levels of not okay. I don't know what the age gap is. Taking advantage of someone's naivete to get them to do stuff like this for you? Not okay. You guys really started off with a good one, didn't you? Before I tell this story, let me introduce our characters. Our Dragonborn Ranger, our Earth Sign Barbarian, and our Problem Player, a Drow Wizard, and yeah, the Problem Player of the campaign. This is a story about the second campaign I DM'd in the 5th edition Homebrew World. It was a small group at first, with just our Dragonborn, our Barbarian, and our Problem Player playing. More joined later, but they're irrelevant to the story. For some background, we're all in the club together, and while Problem Player and myself had experience, the rest of the party were brand new and had never played an RPG before. I disclosed this to our Problem Player. During our session 0, we sat together and rolled our characters. Admittedly, I should have looked over Problem Player's sheet better, but was too busy helping the other 2 with creating their characters. After the session, Problem Player messages me on Facebook asking if he can have an NPC follower. I don't see the harm in it, so I wrote up a stat block for 1 follower and continued with my night. Session 1 begins, and due to being in the process of moving, I had asked the table if anyone had extra dice, to which Problem Player promptly handed me a set of black dice. This is going to be important later. Everyone introduces their characters, and then it comes time for Problem Player. He doesn't describe 1 or even 2 NPCs. He introduces 5 NPCs, which he describes as drow breeding slaves. Now, over the last year, I've seen fantasy used to tell such incredible stories. Wondrous adventures, bittersweet tragedies, and epic victories. And then there's like Chud over here who's like, what about the breeding slave? Yeah, he had rescued them, and they had sworn loyalty to him. This was the first of many warning signs. I was annoyed, but to keep from interrupting the flow of gameplay, I allowed it for the time being, and came with ways to introduce them to the planned 1 NPC I had made. Man, don't you hate it when the TNT you're strapping to your own dick is shaped like drow breeding slave? They meet a Warforged who is a bookkeeper who invites them to his home. The party talk to him to discover his good friend had gone missing a few months prior on a business trip. Inside his friend's workshop, there's a puzzle with a clock, and even before... wait, a puzzle with a clock? No. No! No! Only Destiny 2 players will understand. I didn't realize so many people in this world don't know how to read a normal clock. Yeah. Anyway, puzzle with a clock. And even before looking at his notes, problem player shoves all of the papers on his desk into his bag and refuses to let the other party look. I keep dropping hints that maybe they pick something up and that could help them, but problem player says he doesn't care and leaves to go to the tavern, forcing Dragonborn and Barbarian to figure out this puzzle without any clues thanks to the wizard. The puzzle opens the door, and problem player says he rushes in there before everyone else, despite already leaving the room. They find some constructs in the basement and find a diary. Then, the session ends. By this point, everyone is having fun, despite problem player's slightly intrusive behavior, and I'm excited that they're enjoying the plot and overall environment. The next few sessions go on without incident, with the party getting arrested while drunk and making a deal with the head of the town guard. This ends with them securing a boat and setting sail to the campaign's main city. Each session, I use the same set of dice to problem player's request, but I thought he was just being nice. Around this time, a little ragtag group of adventurers attended a Ren Fair together with our club and had a fun day drinking mead and attending other festivities, with a drunken problem player approaching me with laughter. Hey man, you know those dice that I told you to use? Oh yeah, what about them? Yeah, I gave them to you because they're negatively weighted. Isn't that funny? No, not really. I talked to him about that and the NPC situation. He seemed to understand, so we continued playing again for a few sessions without incident, aside from a few cases of metagaming from the problem player. After settling into my new apartment, we decided to change where we host games. Barbarian decided we played at his house, so we did. Throughout the entire campaign, problem player had not only used his character to bully others into doing what he wanted, but he also, more often than not, would take everyone else's loot and hoard it to himself, leaving the rest of the party reliant on him for funds. Over time, this drew a massive divide between the problem player and the rest of the party, who tried to talk to him every time, and he would reply with just, "It's what my character would do." During one session, problem player went out to meet a friend for some Pokemon cards he had bought. He then proceeded to brag to the party with his friends about how many DMs he's going to rage quit, stating roleplay was unnecessary, your stats are all the roleplay you need, and listing off strategies of how to win D&D. It seemed at this point to me that problem player was using the campaign to just fuel his ego. Bro, that's like bragging about beating Baldur's Gate on easy mode with cheats. Like, it's not competitive in the first place. And you needed to cheat! My only goal with this campaign was to build a story and have a blast with my friends, but as I'll soon find out, problem player was far from anyone's friend. After 7 months, we were finally ready to focus on developing individual characters. In campaigns, I usually give each character a few sessions where I focus on them, similar to an arc in a television show. I do this to prevent main character syndrome, while also making sure each player feels important in their own ways. As such, they were given the plot hook for Barbarian's arc. Essentially, the Emperor who was controlling the main city was planning on invading Barbarian's homeland. After failing to get an alliance with said Emperor, Barbarian talked to the party about helping him fend off the invasion. Everyone seemed on board, everyone except problem player, who refused unless Barbarian swore allegiance to him, and he just kept repeating the phrase, "What's in it for me?" At this point, I'm pretty sure the whole table was done with him. Problem player and Barbarian got into a screaming match, so I decided to call for 30 minutes just to calm everyone down. After our break, the party decided to leave problem player in the city in the middle of the night after running a tab with his name on it to buy the necessary supplies. Dude, we love pettiness! I thought this was only fair, seeing as the only reason the party was broke was because problem player kept stealing from everyone, including his own party. Upon figuring this out, problem player, out of character, well, he lost it. He kept telling me to retcon the party stealing from him, threatening to leave if I didn't, and it was then I finally stood up for myself. Respectfully, this is my campaign. I don't have to do crap I don't want to do. Alright, when my food gets here, I'm leaving. Okay, fine by me. When his food finally came, he stayed, and his bluff was called in front of everyone, and the rest of the session went fine. I, again, attempted to talk to problem player about his actions to no avail. After this, we held a few more sessions, but anytime problem player did everything remotely cringy, everyone rolled their eyes. It was apparent that the mood had been spoiled at the table, and members of the party had messaged me to express their distaste for problem player, who had started to make DMing feel like a chore. It wasn't long after this that I finally kicked problem player, who proceeded to blow up at our club's group chat before leaving. After kicking problem player, everyone was a lot happier. And the campaign went on for another year and a half before concluding last week. While I'm at fault as a DM for allowing problem players' behavior to go on as long as it did, I'm beyond glad it didn't ruin tabletop role-playing games for the rest of my friends. In fact, D and B both DM their own campaigns now, and I'm proud to see how far they've come as both players and people. Before we get to the analysis, here's some footage of me reacting to that drow slave footage I censored.
The woman was too stunned to speak.
Now, the writer did send me a follow-up email claiming responsibility for the situation, and yeah, that's true. This person does bear some responsibility for allowing problem players' behavior to go on as long as it did. I mean, 7 months is a really long time, especially since this guy opened up with being so bad. But it's important to keep in mind that during D&D, problem player behavior is usually isolated to like 5-minute moments in 3-hour sessions. It's so easy to minimize someone's bad behavior, especially if you're actively trying to avoid conflict. I say this all the time, but we're not supposed to be dealing with problem players at our table. That's not the norm, so often we're not ready to do it. But pulling the trigger and getting someone like this out of your game can really save you a lot of trouble. You said it yourself, everyone was a lot happier. Your campaign would not have gone on as long as it did if this guy stayed around. So I'm glad that even if it took too long, you did get rid of him. Honestly though, I just kick him for the way he talks. God, this guy sounds annoying. Some stuff's just cringeworthy, it's not even deep, I guess. Earlier this summer, I was getting really bored with life and really wanted to play more Dungeons & Dragons after having a wonderful experience with it over the past 2 years. So I went onto the dreaded Dungeons & Dragons Discord server's LFG channel. Killed my friend.
You gonna res me or not?
Are you wiping right now?
This is the worst game I ever experienced.
But I'm gonna be fair though. I haven't actually gotten any horror stories from the official state-endorsed D&D Discord server LFG channel. This is the first one. Huh. Anyway, I found one advertising a long-running game that I could totally make, and I decided to join in. The age range was 16 to 21, which is in my age range, and seemed really fun from the description. They were running like a gritty Steinhardt campaign. It seemed like the Dungeon Master was very serious about the game when I started talking to him about it. He invited me to a call with him and one of his players, who played a Blood Hunter, and I started making my character. Everything seemed great, no red flags at all. There were 5 players, myself, a Warlock, another Warlock, a Jaeger? Dude, the bad guys at D&D are used to squaring off with, like, dudes with swords and dudes with bows. Not dudes in tight mech suits! Oh my god! That's my second Pacific Rim reference this week. I like it. Anyway, yeah, we had a Jaeger, a Blood Hunter, a Cleric, and a Paladin. The other Warlock had tried to add magic items to her character without any go-ahead from the Dungeon Master, and seemed like she was metagaming from the DM's descriptions. However, with only a few hiccups, we made it to Session 0 with all 5 players. Session 0 went somewhat well. The Paladin kept interrupting the DM to make jokes, but I was assured by the DM that he was a good player. We were just chatting after, and there was a lot of focus in the conversation on the Paladin, but I was sure that it was because of the interruptions. The other Warlock ended up leaving without giving much explanation, so we were down to 4 players. We all scheduled the first session for the next week, and we waited. Well, the first session came, and the Jaeger couldn't make it due to family reasons, so we postponed the session until the next week so that we could have all the players at the first session. 2 days before the first session, I decided to check the Discord server spontaneously, but I couldn't find it. I was really confused, so I tried to message the DM, but I was blocked. I messaged every other player asking what had happened. The other players had been blocked too. Apparently, the Paladin also sent me back a message. He basically said that he had been friends with the Dungeon Master for a while, and had played Dungeons & Dragons with him before. But he himself had not been the best player, so the campaigns fizzled out. He went on to explain that the DM had created a fake D&D campaign to check if he was a good fit for a real D&D campaign.
Yo, what?
Okay, so with everything we've talked about, do you feel like you're making any progress in how you feel about your D&D problem player? Oh, I don't know. I want to do something, but well, there's always something you can do. You could always talk to him about it, or if you think the problem is too bad, you can always just move on. But you can't just wallow in misery, fantasizing about revenge. That's not gonna... Or I could create an elaborate PsyOp, a fake Dungeons and Dragons game, completely staged, bring in a bunch of people, and during which prove once and for all the Paladin is a problem player. He must approve of this great plan. I was baffled. I literally went on an alternate account to get some clarity or closure from the Dungeon Master. He basically said that
I wouldn't say it was fake, but there was a secondary motivation behind it.
which basically confirmed the story. He apologized, but I kind of got a feeling that he thought he was in the right. He explained that he had blocked us because after revealing his motives to the Paladin left the campaign, and instead of telling us, he thought it would be just easier to block us all. A crazy line from our text was when he said, "It's fine to feel betrayed." Anyway, I'm gonna stick to my great campaign that's running right now. I flew a little close to the sun by opening that dreaded LFG channel. I don't even know if I fully understand what exactly the DM was trying to do here, like the point of the plot in the first place. Doesn't make any sense to me, but look, I always say that you should try to solve in-game problems with out-of-game solutions. You can't use in-game solutions, and this would seem to meet that qualification. This social experiment prank thing is an out-of-game solution, but it's certainly not an effective one. You shouldn't need to resort to underhand tactics in order to figure out whether or not your friend is good for D&D. You just wasted the time of a bunch of other people and made yourself the problem. So what was the point? The point of solving problems is to solve problems, not create more of them. Hi Crispy, I really like the expressiveness in your readings, and I think that the story told with your input and skits would be a little more bearable. Well, I'll see what I can do. I'm writing this because a huge development at my table happened, and I got some terrifying major details just a few hours ago. To be completely clear, most of the horror in the story is away from the table, and the story only revolves around the people in one of my groups making massive drama outside of our game. Trigger warning. Racism, homophobia, real-life violence.
Danger.
Dude, stop. What? We already did that at the beginning. Oh. Sorry. Okay, this was a campaign that I DM'd back in 2021, just after the C19 vaccines became available. I'm the Dungeon Master. Martha is my best friend, a human druid of a homebrew circle. She's like a sister to me. Quinn is Martha's fiance, a warlock of a homebrew race and of a homebrew pact. Frank is Martha's older brother, in-game and out-of-game, a human beast conclave ranger. We're pretty close friends too. And Victoria, Frank's wife, a minotaur Oath of Redemption paladin. She's the problem player. To begin, this group was originally supposed to be Frank, Martha, and Quinn playing through a setting that I'd written myself. Victoria heard about it through Frank and immediately forced her way into the game. I figured she was just excited to play since she had apparently played in high school and hadn't been able to find a game since then, so I let her join. It kind of annoyed me when, instead of following the lore in my setting, she insisted her minotaur came straight out of the abyss. I figured I'd let it go because the big bad evil guy was a demon of sorts, and it could be explained away that this was a defector of Bahamut coming through the portal at the same time. She built her character around this concept and thought out her backstory pretty well, so I didn't have a problem with the finished character concept when she presented it to me. We had session 0, but thankfully it was only a small thing in the first session that needed to be addressed. Alright, that first session. 1 week after session 0 we began playing. It quickly became apparent that Victoria would not be playing her character as the neutral good defender of the innocent that was in her backstory, but rather as a chaotic random idiot that would steal with and cheat anyone who she thought she could manipulate. What really pissed off the rest of the group, though, was that she ran this scam routine with a little girl who had just lost her mother to the big bad evil guy and proceeded to roll an attack to chop this girl in half with her great axe. Dude, what kind of character are you supposed to be playing? It's quite simple. I'm a defender of the weak, a protector of the innocent, a warrior of righteousness. Oh, yeah, that sounds Great, but why are you decapitating a child? Everyone has their off days, okay? Thankfully, Quinn shut that down, which made Martha very protective. When Frank told his wife that she should not do this, Victoria got very huffy and left the session and the room. We continued to play and we had a great time. I changed the story slightly to just retcon it so that Victoria did attack the random child, and that Quinn convinced Victoria to give back the 2 silver pieces that she had taken from her. But Victoria refused to return until after the game ended. Quinn was doing better by the end of the night, so we agreed to let Victoria come back next session. We had a short discussion about how what she did was not okay, and she agreed not to do anything at the same ilk. It was fine, and that's the end of the story. Yeah, woo! Yeah! I'm not even halfway through. It was fine for now, at least. The second session, and we've got big news. Frank and Martha were very excited to play the next session, but for very different reasons. When we all gathered at the table, Martha told everyone that she and Quinn were getting married, and that the wedding was scheduled to happen in 2 weeks, and that she was inviting me and Frank before anyone else. Obviously, we had a small celebration at the table, during which time Frank and Victoria told everyone that Victoria was 4 months pregnant. So the entire session was just buzzing with excitement, and Victoria's problematic behavior from the first game, that had disappeared. We had a lot of fun, and we got through a decent part of the story. At the end of the session, everyone went home. It was at this point, as told to me by Frank, that Victoria told Frank that she wanted to announce her pregnancy at Martha and Quinn's wedding, but Frank had shot her down. Don't you love that feeling when you need to make everything about yourself?
But what about me?
Sorry, random stock footage lady. I'm sure you're a wonderful person. Victoria was already planning, though. The next few sessions were passing as normal. Victoria's chaotic randomness luckily only came up in a couple of inconsequential situations, and the party got to the chamber of a dungeon's boss monster. This is when Martha asked me something that we all thought was interesting. She and Quinn wanted me to host a boss fight at their wedding, as all the guests were very, very nerdy, and they thought this would appeal to everyone more than the, traditional dance. I agreed to this because it sounded interesting, and I thought it would be a great, shake-up to expectations. The wedding! And the aftermath. We began our session just as the processional ended, as my sister/best friend and her wife walked up the aisle to the quote-unquote altar, which was actually just a table, which the group sat at. We did the boss fight, which, thanks to everyone, worked quickly. It only took 20 minutes! And the guests loved it, and were invested the entire time. I'm pretty sure Quinn's sister cheered when the final blow was dealt. Bro, do all lesbian weddings have a fight to the death? Because, now I'm invested. I want to go. Get me invited. Let's do this. The fight was punctuated by a love confession from Quinn's character to Martha's at the end. Quinn pulled a single hit. I don't know. Oh. It's not a flower in Minecraft, so, how was I supposed to know what it was? She pulled out a flower from beneath her chair, which was connected to her character, which was like a flower folk kind of person. And this is when the vows of marriage were supposed to begin. But Victoria decided this was the moment she wanted to enact her plan. She grabbed Frank's wine flute, which was filled with Pinot Noir, and splashed it all over Quinn's dress. Quinn, obviously, is in complete shock. She began crying, running off the altar and into the couple's dressing room. Martha follows her because, she's concerned about her partner. Victoria then pushed the table, sending all of our dice and 3 more wine glasses onto the floor. She announced that she was pregnant under the marriage arch, while giving the crowd a grin like she'd done the smartest thing ever. Unfortunately for Victoria, Quinn's mom was in the crowd and had just witnessed her daughter's wedding being ruined and hijacked. Quinn's mom proceeded to stomp up the aisle and send a fist into Victoria's face. The crunch was audible from feet away. Victoria was then pulled out of the building while she screamed, Guys, can we stop being racist? Please?
I was looking for 3 hooded morons.
This was said during a wedding that was attended by only 2 people, Victoria and a friend of Martha and Quinn, who were not black or mixed race. There were 51 guests total, a majority of which were blood relatives of Quinn's. This led to a massive uproar during the marriage ceremony, and Frank filed for divorce the next day.
That's a divorce. That's a divorce! course!
This is where my knowledge ended until about an hour ago. Some of the details I just learned after talking to Frank and his mother. Victoria was apparently massively homophobic to a degree where she made a point of bringing up several homophobic views during the divorce proceedings. In the transcripts from the first hearing, she is quoted in saying, "Martha is a lesbian and Quinn's one of those pansexuals, so the wedding wasn't even real anyway." And later, "These people couldn't get a priest to officiate that gay crap. They were gonna have the writer do it." Just as a side note, I was asked to preside over the wedding because of Quinn's faith, like a small folk religion doesn't really have priests or a clergy. Another instance of this during a family court subtrial held because Frank demanded a paternity test of the 1-month-old, it was revealed that the baby wasn't Frank's! Bro, I feel like I'm on an episode of reality TV! Ah! You know, I know it might be slightly problematic, but you guys are fulfilling all my drama girly dreams, and I really love you for that. During this proceeding, she has a transcript saying that she thinks Frank is gay anyway, so she's free to do whatever she wants. Marriages involving the LGBT, in air quotes, aren't real, so I wasn't cheating. He should have to pay. V had apparently done both these things, crashing a wedding and trying to financially baby trap a partner before, having 3 restraining orders against her from a married couple, an ex-husband, and a child that she had given up to foster care. She'd also racked up 3 felony charges: malicious damage of property, aggravated assault of a public servant, and falsification of government records, one from each source. The first filed after she destroyed the married couple's cars, the second filed after she assaulted her ex-husband, and the last filed for making edits to the child's birth certificate after she gave it up. She lied about her birthday, and she did that because she was born in late December, making her astrologically a Capricorn. She didn't like the creature or traits associated with the sign. The worst crime! So instead, she chose to celebrate her birthday in early August because she thought the Leo traits were more ideal. Her year of birth was lied about because she had spent 11 years in prison due to the previously mentioned charges. She told Frank that she was 31, which is only like a couple of years older than him. She's actually 42. Frank found that out in court. Holy crap! Dude, this is Femcel territory at a level that we have not seen before. This is downright diabolical. I feel like incels are the pathetic weasels that everybody can stomp with a boot, but damn, this Femcel turned into a straight-up supervillain. My god. I wonder what non-binary cells, NB cells, something like... Anyway, look, point is, yeah, this was insane, and weddings are always the source of the craziest public outrage and drama I have ever seen. This just about matches the worst story I've ever been a part of. Which sucks. I mean, I don't understand the appeal of weddings, but I understand that they mean a lot to people, and having them be ruined like this it just is not great at all. I think the real takeaway is how special this D&D group is to this couple. I mean, they clearly love this game a lot. It's a stupid nerd game, but it's a stupid nerd game you play upwards of 4 to 5 hours a week. It's a lot. It matters, and I think that's cool. Hey, that's a wrap. If you guys enjoyed, you might enjoy our episode on somebody who is disgusted by a husband and wife doing a cutesy romance. Ugh. That story is linked in the cards, the end, and in the description. But before you go, please do leave a like on this video and subscribe to Crispy's Tavern so you don't miss any of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down in the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment divorced to let me know you made it to the end of the video. Hey, by the way, if you have your own horror stories, you can send them directly to us. There's an email down in the description down below. Send your stories our way for a chance to be featured in one of these videos. And also, don't try to pay me to read your horror stories. If I'm not reading your story, it's probably because it's not very good. But anyway, that's a story for another day. In any case, in essence, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell.